Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We're going to give a few more minutes for everyone to log in. Now, while we wait, Prolim is a leading PLM, cloud, Mendex, and digital transformation solutions provider. With its global footprint and expertise in the latest technologies, Prolim can partner to speed up your digital transformation journey. We'll start shortly. Okay, we're ready to begin our tech talk today on Master the NX Sketcher Solver to elevate your CAD designs. As you have questions on this topic, we invite you to unmute yourself or enter them in the chat window. We will also take questions at the end if you would prefer. Our presenter today is Brian Fisher. He is located in our Cincinnati office. And here's a little bit about Brian. He's an application engineer with extensive experience in various CAD programs. He has over 20 years experience working with NX and Teamcenter software, excellent background in mechanical design, tool design, freeform molding, D&T, and stack ups. Welcome, Brian. The Tech Talk is now yours.
Okay, hello everybody. So I want to start off. Many of you've already I'll ask this: how many individuals in the chat room right now have been trained by me or seen some of my sketch videos? Just give me a raise your hand if you have seen any of these sketch videos from the past or my presentations or anything like that. Okay, so looks like we got 3 people now. Okay. The next thing I want to ask everybody, if you could real quick in your chat room, in the chat room there, if you could go ahead and put what version everybody's currently in, if you know what version of NX you're in. Yeah, so we got 2207, 2406. Okay, so we do have somebody on the new version there. We go all the way back to 1980 and 2007. Okay, so we got a pretty good mixture here. 1980 is going back pretty far, but that's a few years now, but that's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys the opportunity if you have any questions as I go through this. Some of the stuff that I'm going to go through is just kind of a refresher. Some of you guys already probably seen it before, but there have been a lot of enhancements going all the way back to 1956 and 1926 when this was first released. So I'm going to go ahead and show some of those enhancements also. Additionally, I will show the new features that just came out in 2406. 2406 came out last week, I believe it was. I attended a lot of courses through Siemens on that. I'll show you some more self-help for those that have seen me before or know who I am. Know I'm a big fan of the self-help. But I'll go ahead and start showing some of that. And let's go ahead here, and I'm going to jump into my presentation here. So this should look familiar to anybody that's seen my presentation. This is a past presentation, I should say. So we're going to kind of do the same thing we've done, and I'm going to work through this. If anybody has any questions or anything as I go through, please just put it in the chat, and we can answer those. Or if you have an example you want to use, please just, speak up and say, hey, I got something. What do I need to do here? How can we handle this? The solution may be some of the new features we've added. So we'll start off by saying, this was introduced in 1926, this new sketcher, the new solver. Wasn't a default at that time, but in 1953, we made it the default and we added enhancements. Throughout this, I'm going to go in, I'll show you how to turn off the new sketcher and turn it back on. Now, starting a few versions ago, you actually can go in and turn it off and on and not have to get out in and out of NX to turn it off and on. Additionally, now if you go into an old sketch, a legacy sketch, it will bring you into the old solver. So I'll show some of that. We'll talk about the sketch preferences, self-help, working with the legacies that I just mentioned, imported geometry, and so on. So here is how we went in the past and turned on and turned off the defaults. Well, not the default, but if you want the classic solver or the new solver. That has changed a little bit as I stated. I'll show that here in a few seconds. And then we'll talk about why you use the new solver. So let's go back into NX here. Here I am in NX. I am 2406. You can see here, this is June 2024 Premiere. and it talks about that. Inside my model part here, I have a new part open. If I come into preferences here, I can go into my sketch. This is the same as it has been in the past. This is on the sessions. And then if we come in here and I say file and I come utilities, early access, if I say sketch, you'll see right here, it's currently on, but to restart it, I do not have to restart it. See how it says no. So when it's on, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch real quick. We know we're in the new solver right away. How do I know this? For one, we have solve up here. This tells me right away that I'm in the new solver. If I come in here and finish this, I have a sketch currently in the new solver. If I came over here and said file preferences, utilities, sorry, in early access and go to sketch. Gotta learn how to spell first. I can come in here and turn this off. As soon as I turn that off, I am now in the old sketcher. There's a few ways I can tell when I come in here and create it. First off, I don't have my axes. And second off, I have rapid dimension and constraints. So now I have a mixture of sketches within here. So if I come back to the first sketch, you can see I'm in a new solver. If I finish that one and come back over here to the second sketch, you can see I'm in the old solver. Now, if I wanted to renew this sketch and I wanted to make it to the new solver, if I came in and I say renew and I say feature, you'll notice that that sketch is not there. The reason that's not there right now, that tells me that my default in my utilities here for early access feature is on the old solver. So if I wanted to turn it back on, I say okay. Now if I came to renew and I come to feature, I have the new solver that I can go ahead and renew this to. So this is going to act like it did in the past. Now I have two of them that are in the new solver. So that's a little demonstration there about how we can go in and utilize the toggles there, feature toggles and early access features to be able to go into new and old solvers. Now, additionally, why would we want to use the new sketch solver? I know many of us, had been using the old solver for many, many years. However, since the first release, I should say, of the new solver, there have been a lot of enhancements to it. You guys have asked a lot of, questions. You guys have put in a lot of requests, and we listen to that, and we're actually going in and making sure that we listen to you guys and add these things you guys have been asking for. So again, our sketch preferences are pretty much the same as they have been in the past. You can go in there and you can mess with them for the session. The default's still the same. Closed regions, shaded light brown. Movable curves are brown. Defined curves are black, and so on. And then we have our sketch tutorials that we can come in and look at, and we can have this information that we can watch videos, go in and get ourselves some help. And these are the topics here. You have some all topics, sketch tutorials, and dialogue help. I'll go ahead and show that. I know from some of you guys, if you've seen me in the past, know how I utilize that stuff. Additionally, what I do want to point out is we do have ourselves, whoops, I accidentally hit something there, guys. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead back in here. We do have ourselves the Prolim YouTube channel also. If you have not done so, please go ahead and subscribe to it. This will give you a lot of information in here, such as my last tech talk I did, which was on design best practices. Once we finish this, we will be taking this particular session, and it will be also posted on here. So additionally, inside here, if I came in and did a search, I can go and do an NX sketch. And you'll see here that we have information on the new sketcher that I did in the past. This was 2 years ago. And then 3 years ago, I did a few other things also. So that is a nice area that you can also go to get help. However, within NX, we have a lot of built-in help. So if I come in here and I hit sketch, first thing I do, my good old F1 key. I hit my F1 key. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this and pull this out a little bit so we can see it. You can see here, we have different things that we can go in and select. This one is on mirror. This is sketch along the path. This here would take you into your new sketch here and talk about it along with some videos. So if you're a legacy user and you want more information, you can quickly go in there and hit that. You also have some quick tips. If I hit my quick tip here, it's going to go in and show me a few little things such as a shake and break. And you'll have a video down here also that will come through here, and it does have verbiage to it. And then you got your commands. Here's a nice one that's been added just recently, the overdefined sketch. This will allow you to know what's overdefined. It's a little bit harder to overdefine stuff in the new Sketcher, but it can occur. I will show an example of that later. From here, I can also come in here and hit my sketch over help. This will take us into our Siemens Support Center. It will come in there and have information on this. Additionally, up here at the top, if I come to go get started, we have videos on how to create a sketch. We also have some basic tutorials. These basic tutorials also will have some parts in there that you can download, and it will walk you step by step how to go through and do a particular tutorial. So with that saying, does anybody have questions yet? Anything at all? We do have a hand up. Jonathan, you want to, you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. Or was that a hand left up from earlier? Okay. Well, we'll move on, but if Jonathan does need something, you guys can unmute yourself and ask questions as we go, okay? So the next area I like to look at on my self-help is the home page, the what's new. I think this is an underused feature that a lot of people don't use that often. If I go in my Discovery channel, Discovery Center, and I hit what's new, and we had somebody that I think we furthest back we had was 1980. So if I come in there and I say 1980 in Sketch, you'll see these are all the enhancements we had. We have had several enhancements on here, such as, let's say, 2312 right here. We had a sketch slot that was added. I will show an example of that also, but that's a quick way that you can get in there and look at the different things that have been added. Additionally, as I talked about in 2306, use legacy and new sketch in the same session. So if you're on a version below 2306, you won't have that option. If you're in 2306 and above, you now have the option of going in there and utilizing that how I showed. So that's a quick little demonstration of some of the self-help that we have. There's a lot of information in there, including if you have this highlight turned on. What the highlight does, it will highlight any command that had a change since then. So this is not just sketch. This will be any of these features. If I came up here to curve, you can see curve on surface and so on has had some changes also. Another nice little thing that's been added is you had rectangle from center. So it adds a center point and line. I'll show you guys that a little bit. And then we have found relationships for fillet, and I will show that. So there's a lot of information in here that you can quickly get to and see what's been added since your last version that you were on. One of the biggest changes coming up, well, actually it just came out, is on the 2406 is the Sketch Navigator. The Sketch Navigator has areas such as curves, relations, and external references and issues. And again, I'll be showing an example of that also. So there's a lot of information that you can get to on your own throughout just getting in the NX and looking, knowing where to look, the what's new, and then the F1 key. If you're F1 key, you could also come in, if I came in and did a sketch, and I'm just going to create a sketch here real quick. And let's just say I was going in and I wanted to know more information on the slot. I come in here, I have my help here that I can hit, or F1. F1 does the same thing as the help key. So once I say that, you'll get a video on the slot and it'll give you information on how to utilize that slot. I will show that later on, like I said, but I just wanted to quickly go in there and show that particular area where you're able to go in and get yourself self-help. Another new area that was been added. This is in YouTube. This is Siemens. It has a nice area for tips and tricks. So if I came in here and I select this here, this is the link I have that I've went and saved. You can see there's a lot of information. Create new parts. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see right here, there's that sketch command. Within there, that's a video in there. That video is a little bit over well, let's see here, 6 minutes. I start at the end there. If we came back here to the front, you'll see he shows an example of how to use a sketch with the slot and what the slot would do. So if you're having a difficult time, just remember there is help out there, and this help is easy to get to. So how do we know again, new solver over old solver? Well, it's pretty easy, to tell you the truth. You have your geometric constraints here, and then your dimensions here. That's the old solver. New solver, you get your solve, and then you have your different relationships. So the relationships have taken the place of the geometric constraints. Okay? Anybody got any questions or comments so far? All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So prior to 2306, when you went to renew a sketch, you had this option here, edit legacy sketch, edit parameters, or renew and edit. You don't have to do that no more. As I just shown, you can work directly in the legacy sketch. However, you do have the option to renew it if you want. Whoop, I'm sorry. Did not mean to hit play on that. That's my bad. So within here, this is the information that came directly from that link for the customer within the help for new, what's new. It talks about the information here, editing a new sketch, and the recommendation still is if it's just a dimensional change, leave it in the legacy sketch. There may be a wave geometry or you may have an expression that's used somewhere else. I would recommend leaving in the legacy sketch unless you have to make a model change. And what I mean by that is adding curves or maybe getting rid of a constraint. So you can make a, let's just say the line was, edge was 90 degrees and you want it to be like 5 degrees. You would have to go in there and add that dimension and get rid of that constraint. So that's an example of how you'd want to go in and update the constraint. I mean, update the sketch. So let's go back in NX here and we'll show a few examples of that. So here I am in my old sketch. I know I'm in my old sketcher because this is from 1926. And if I come in here and double click on this, you can tell I'm in the old sketcher because I have my constraints and my dimensions still. Now, just to show I'm not doing demo magic here, we are in 2406. So you can work still out of that particular file. You don't have to go to the new solver. You're on the old solver. All you have to do is come over, double click on it, and you're right there in the new old solver. Another way you can edit it is just by coming in, clicking the sketch, come down to details, and you can make dimensional changes here and you'll see it change on the fly. Or I'm able to come in here and say edit parameters and it will give me the dimensions and I can come in there and I even have a slide here now that allows me to slide that. So if I wanted to have that as 5 inches, I come in there and make it 5. Now, because I have the old the new solver on as my main sketch, I can renew this just by coming in and saying renew. Whoop, I'm sorry, I accidentally hit the enter button, and that takes me into the search here and gives me more information on tips here. So if you wanted commands and stuff, you can do that. Let me go back over here and just say renew, come down and say feature. Now you see I have the 1930 sketch and I want to update that. I say yes. And now when I come into it, I am in the new solver. So it gives you some flexibility. If you prefer the old solver, you still have the ability to work in the old solver. If you prefer the new solver, you have the ability to work in the new solver. So you're not stuck with just working in the old solver or new solver. However, once you renew that sketch, you cannot go backwards. So just keep that in mind when you're working in that. Now, another area that who here works with Legacy Sketch? With the show of hand, how many people work with any type of Legacy Sketch or geometry? Geometry that you may get from, okay, so we got 3, 4, 5, okay. So not uncommon. A lot of us, have worked in the industry for a long time, and there may be a file from 5, 10 years down the road that you may want to make a change to. And if you have individuals that's working, let's say on, an older version of an X and come over, and starts working for you, they may want to stay in an old sketcher. Now, the recommendation, like I said, is if it's a dimensional change, stay in the old sketcher. If you're actually adding stuff to it, my recommendation would be to renew it and work in it. But it's your guys' preference there. All right. Who here happens to work with, let's say, imported geometry? IGES files, DXF, DWGs, anything like that. All right. So within the new sketch, there is some nice enhancements to work with files that are imported. So I'm going to go ahead, and anybody that's, seen my other presentations, I'm kind of going back and just showing some additional stuff here. But for the most part, much of this works in still the same manner. So I'm going to go in, though, and I'm going to import some IGES files. So I have an IGES file here. We're going to go find that IGES file. Here it is. And we'll wait for it to import. Once we have it imported, I know this is just curves, non-timestamp geometry. So it's a non-timestamp geometry right now. It's not a sketch. It's just curves. However, if I come in here and I create myself a sketch, I'm going to go find my plane here real quick. Under here, I have add curves. Come in there, I add my curves. Now it's a sketch, and I can come in there and make changes to it. Now, the nice thing about it is I'm not going to, this is a preference here that a lot of people turn off, by the way, because if I come in here and I change this to 10, it's going to scale everything else up to that. I'm going to say no here on this time, and then I'm going to hit my middle mouse button, and I have myself a sketch. However, the nice thing I was going to say is once I go in and put a dimension, you'll notice it starts finding these relationships for me, and I can relax those relationships if I only wanted to change that hole. So if I only wanted to change that one hole, I relax those, and then I come in and I make a change, and let's make it where it's really noticeable. So you can see there that that particular hole will change, but none of the other ones will. If I wanted to do this and keep my pattern and have all these others change, I can come in there and say 0.1, for example, and you'll see everything in there. So it's intelligent, and it realizes, it has all these found relationships for it. I'm going to go ahead and say finish on that. And we have ourselves, start of a sketch now, and you notice that the non-timestamp geometry is gone. I do have a video also in here inside my presentation, and I accidentally turned it on. Sorry about that. So the basic interactions now. So let's talk about Create Sketch, Sketch Navigator. Sketch Navigator is a brand new feature. And I am messing up here, guys, accidentally by going on and hitting forward, and it's playing my video. Sorry about that. So here I have what it looked like prior. Then you guys asked, hey, can we get some of this orientation back? So we reintroduced the orientation in 1980. However, we now have a brand new, even more control of the orientation. You have to turn it on in your customer defaults, but it gives you the ability to create a plane on the fly. And what I'll do is, since this is one of the enhancements that I would have to go to customer defaults and turn off and on, I do have a video I am going to play on that one. But just to show you where it's at here, within our customer defaults, and we go to Sketch, you'll see under Session right here, Create Sketch, you have an automatic manual. If you turn it to manual, you're going to get this menu here when it comes up. And I'll show here an example in a second. But I did forget to show you guys one other thing that I wanted to show you. This here, I'm going to go and import, actually, I'm going to get rid of this sketch. And I'm going to import a Parasolid real quick. So as everybody knows, a Parasolid in the back in the day was kind of a dumb solid. Not a whole lot you could do with it. Then we came in and we introduced synchronous modeling, what allows us to go in there. You know, we can move faces, delete faces, and such. But there is another nice area that's been added, and under synchronous modeling, it's edit curve section. So this edit curve section allows me to come in there, and I'm going to go and select my faces. I'm going to select a plane. And then you'll notice that this sketch pops up here. This is the area right here where I say section. And let's just make a dimensional change again. Let's make something where we can really see it. It gives you a preview of what it's going to be and gives you what it was. From here, I'm just going to say OK, and I'm going to say finish. And then once I say OK or apply, it's going to update that model. If I wanted to make another change again, all I have to do is edit section, say edit section curve. Let's go ahead and let's make a dimensional change here. It's going to go through, calculate that, because I did not go and collect, I did not select to relax that. It's going to go and change all those holes. Once I say OK, it will come back, go through all these changes, and update my model. It's a nice feature that allows you to not have to go in and, I mean, I could make synchronous changes to this just by coming in here and saying move, replace, resize, whatever. You know, I could do all these in there, but this keeps it where your model tree is nice and small and you get a cross section of that particular model. Any questions on any of that so far, guys? Nobody? Okay, so we'll move on a little bit. So on the Create Sketch, I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick. I'm going to fast forward through it a little bit. We don't need to watch all of it, but it will show you what the Create Sketch can do. So let's go ahead and play it here. I'm going to turn off my volume on this because I don't want to hear the verbiage on it. So inside here, it has now been turned on to manual. So when you're on manual, it gives you the ability, you can come in there and create a plane on the fly. In this example here, we're going to utilize the face here and the edge, and we're going to put an angled plane in there. So that's going to be where my sketch starts. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to select my horizontal reference. And then we're going to come over and we're going to select our orientation. So that would be the 0, 0 of the sketch. So if that hole was a datum or something like that, you may want to use that hole. And then from there, you're able to create your sketch on that particular plane. So that's where you could go in and actually utilize more of the manual. So you have more orientation abilities now than what you had in the past. So in the past also, this has stayed the same. You have your preferences here where you can do movable objects. Default is color brown. You can change the color if you feel to. And then we have relationships. You have your persistent relationships, your object action versus action object, dimensions, and then we have persistent relationships. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and show you some of this additional stuff, such as a sketch navigator here. So the sketch navigator and all that information. So let's go in and do a few examples. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. We're on the plane here because I'm still an automatic, not manual. I do have some orientation, but I'm limited on the orientation compared to the manual. Again, we have our vertical and horizontal here, along with the point that comes into it. Right over here, we have our sketch navigator. So right now, the sketch navigator, you can see it does have some information in it. It doesn't have nothing, a whole lot yet because I haven't created nothing, but you can see fully defined. It works a lot like the assembly navigator and the part navigator. It gives you information. So you can see here, like this is a fixed curve. It gives us a source here. We have relationships, external references, and we have issues. So when you come in here, it does have some information in here just because it has these references here for the horizontal and the vertical and the points and such. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and open up a file I've already created. And we're going to take a look at this. So here I have my sketch that I have already created. I have two sketches actually. I have this sketch and this sketch here. If I go ahead and select this, I can see right away I'm in the new sketcher. I also have some, red dimensions. That's some conflicts going on. Additionally, over here, you can see I can select an arc and it will give me information. So when I select that arc, it will highlight over here. If I pull this out a little bit, you see it gives us a value. It also acts very similar to the part and the assembly navigator. You notice when I select that linear pattern, it also highlights these other arcs. So it lets me know over here that those are also in relationship with that. We can see here it's telling me it's got a confliction, and this has a confliction. I can hide and show dimensions just by hitting the hide and show. I can hide arcs. So if I only wanted to, let's just say I only wanted to deal with one area, I can come in there and hide the other arcs and curves and such. This is included curve. Notice it tells me it's included. And it also tells me it's fixed. You can also see these are non-movable curves. If I come to relationships, relationships are very similar. Right now, you can see I do have a couple persistent relationships. I have a pattern and I have a vertical line. If I come in here and I right click, I can say find a navigator. And I can do the same here. I can also come straight in here and edit this. So my pattern here, I'd be able to go and edit my pattern. Now, right now, I have some conflictions I got to worry about. So if I went and tried to edit that, let's say, for example, I say 4, we're still going to have a confliction because of this. It will add to it, but it will still keep it red to let me know that there are problems with that. You have your angular dimensions. If you want it to focus on a line, you can find a navigator. You can add and remove. You convert to reference. External. Well, let me go back to relationships one more time real quick. So inside our particular area here, notice there's no found relationships right now. But as soon as I hit a curve, you're going to get information that comes up and tells you what those found relationships are. The persistent relationships, it tells you what those are, and we'll highlight them also in orange. So you won't see any found relationships until you actually go in and start selecting curves. And then it will also highlight, like I said, the stuff that is related to that particular curve. External references. This does not mean external outside the file. It just means references that may be outside the particular sketch. So for example, I have an included curve here that I brought in. And then I have objects with expressions. So these are objects that have expressions that, notice I added a dimension here and it has the expression of P63. And then placement. So it lets me know what, that there's a plane, an origin, and direction, and a point. Now, if I had created this using the manual, you would have a little bit more control, as I stated, for the orientation, and you would have to go, you'd have more information in here, such as a vertical reference and such. If we look at issues, this is telling me right away what my 2 issues are. I got a sketch relationship that has a problem, and I have a parallel dimension that has a problem. So if I got rid of one of these, let's go ahead and say, boom, whoops, sorry, I had this curve highlighted also, sorry about that. Just go ahead and get rid of that. And you notice now it fixes the issue and says there are no issues. Now, if I came in and I got rid of the pattern, what's going to happen is that is no longer part of the pattern. And this hole is not part of a pattern, and you would have to go in there and actually dimension them now. And notice it also tells me sketch is partially defined with 2 movable curves. So that's pretty much explains the new sketch relationship that we get. I'm sorry, I forgot the terminology for a second. Sketch navigator. But what I do want to point out is if you are in an old sketch, let's go ahead and create an old sketch real quick. I'll go back over to my model, change my utilities, turn off the sketch here, the new solver. Say okay. And we'll just create a real quick sketch. And we'll notice right away we're in the old sketcher because of constraints. We also don't have our axes. But another thing that tells you that you're not, you do not get your sketch navigator over here. So if I finish it and come back, you'll notice that there's no sketch navigator. If you're in a new sketch such as this, you'll see the sketch navigator comes up. So if you come accustomed to that sketch navigator, you're going to have to make sure you're in a new sketcher. With that being said, do we have any questions or any comments on right now? We do have somebody hand up. Daryl, do you have a question, Daryl?
Yeah, hi, Brian. Could you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Daryl.
Okay. I noticed when using the sketch that you didn't have the exit option. Did we lose that functionality?
Exit like the sketch.
Yeah. Instead of accepting
I
it,
usually just say finish and it takes me out.
right, but currently
What
we have
version
the
are you
option
in?
2312.
2312. Let me bring up 2312 real quick.
Yeah, when we go into sketch, you can finish or you can exit as if, to forget all of your changes. Kind of a nice thing to have.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. So thanks for bringing that up, and I'll take a quick look for it. And if I don't have the answer right now, Daryl, what company are you with again?
Electroform?
Electroform. Are you under our maintenance? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. It it could be, something that if it comes up and it is an issue, let me know. But I'll take a quick look here in this version of NX. Come on. There we go. No, that it was acting a little weird there. Wouldn't take me to the version. Here we go. So let's make sure. So we're in 2312 here. And come in and open a new file real quick. It may be, I think there is something in customer defaults that we can turn off and on now for that.
Okay. Yeah, it might
And like I
be.
said, this just came out last week, so I haven't, really got to dig into it. All
Yeah,
right.
so
So
maybe it's in a drop down arrow.
yeah, reset
I don't
position.
I don't see it. Yeah, we got an exit option where you can just leave the sketch without accepting any of the changes.
Exit sketch. So that it is somewhere in there that I would have to turn it on, but it is still there on that. You have modified. Do you want to discard these modifications? Okay.
Yeah.
And let me go back over to the other version of NX. Usually I have two monitor guys, but right before we got on, I literally lost my drive and my second monitor went out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
Timing's
great.
everything.
Uh, okay, so let's see here. So if we type in exit, we still have exit sketch here. Let me go back into this one. Just make a change real quick. So it is there still. I would have to research to see how to turn it off and on though.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's good news. It's
So
still there. That's
yeah, because you can see here when I exited, it did not, I drew that rectangle and then I
okay.
just said exit
All right, thank you.
and it's not there no more. Now I want to try one other thing real quick. I say finish. Okay. That may be because I have the old sketcher on there. Let me try something real quick. Early access sketch. I thought earlier today when I exit the sketch, it actually gave me the option to just discard. And what I mean by that when I say finish. Nope. Okay. So you still have the exit, but we'll have to figure out how to turn that on for you, Daryl. Okay.
Okay.
Righty. Any other questions? Since before I get on showing some of the other new features in here. All right, we got about 10 minutes. So one thing someone did ask me was when you're using the automatic versus the manual when you go to create a sketch, is there a way to create the sketch in an angle? Well, the answer is yes and no. From this menu, I would not be able to do that. What I would have to do is either A, create my plane first, So if I came in and, you know, had a box, for example, let's just put a block real quick. I would have to come in here and create my plane first. And then put my angle to it, whichever angle I want, you know. Then I would be able to come in there and grab that plane, you know, to be able to start. And notice when I hover over it, depending on where I hover, where my starting point would be also. So let's make this where I can, maybe you want to turn off the principal. This would be an example where you may want to turn off the principal planes. Notice how I had a hard time picking it. So I just turned them off. And depending on where I select would be the starting origin. The other thing you would possibly could do is go ahead and create the sketch and then reattach the sketch. So that is a, you know, one of the benefits to having the manual versus the automatic. So if we came back up here, so this here will allow you, you know, to go in there and actually create those planes in that manner. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so I'll show a couple of other things. Gary, well, not Gary. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name there. Did you have something to say?
Yes, Brian, I have to say, like to ask you, why this automatic constraint is using like, it has got a several disadvantages in parametric modeling for a complicated parts, components in the assembly or sub-assembly level. So,
Yes, so
where we can use this automatic constraint once we have not control over the dimensions and placing the sketches in the assembly levels. I would like to know what is the advantage of this one automatic sketching in the NX or any other software specifically, but we won't use in the real parametric modeling and the concept design. I would like to know about this one. Please, can you clear me about this one?
do you have an example?
Yes, I have an example. Suppose there is a crankcase for an engine, or could be any complicated plastic component or roof system components, where there is a curve which is going on a non-linear for the roof curve is a parametric and it's a variation. So we can't give any automatic constraint there. Whereas in the crankcase, there is a number of holes will be there and there is a variations in the geometry.
So you
So
keep
at
on
the
saying
same time,
automatic constraints. When you say that to me, it sounds like you're working out of the old sketcher.
yes, because we need to take out that time constraining. So, and once we do the modification at any point of time, so that is possible with the automatic constraint means it is very really good, but it's not really working out with automatic constraint. So
Well,
that is what I would.
the found relationships work, you know, what different than, you know, the automatic. There is no automatic constraint no more in the newer sketcher. There's found relationships, but if you need to make something persistent, it would react just like the constraints do. So for example, let's take this curve here for a sec, for example. Let's say I wanted to make sure that that curve is always perpendicular, or maybe I want to make sure it's always vertical, okay? I just come in here, I say create persistent constraints, turn that on, and then I have the ability to say make vertical. Now that curve will always be vertical no matter what. Because I have my display persistent on, it will show that that's persistent. This is also where the sketch navigator comes into play. I can come in here and look at my relationships and see right away what's persistent. Is that what you're looking to get to? Is that what you're asking? Or am I following you wrong?
Yes, Brian. Actually, I'm asking that only in the navigator control where the assembly levels will be controlled through the tree only. Yes, working with that one. But the thing is like where the automatic constraint, I would like to know. So if it is working in that way, explaining in where the sketches are playing around, like in the simple way, in the other way, in the complicated way, like
Okay.
yeah, you understand. I think I understand me. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, you can
If there
still
is
go
a,
back into the old, old Sketcher now when you're in 24:06. If you prefer that, you can
okay,
turn that on and just work directly out of that.
okay,
And then you can do you have your dimensions, you have your constraints drop down here. You have, all the
okay,
old stuff that you had in the past. It's still there, but you have to turn on for example, your auto constraints here. So you have that
okay,
ability still if you like working with the legacy sketch.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, Brian, it makes sense. Thank you for your this
Okay.
answer.
All right. Thank you for the question. Okay, we have Vicky. Did something come
Hey,
across, Vicky?
it did. Here's a question someone asked. Do I need a Siemens login web key to see material for self-help?
No. Actually, if I come back into my let me go in NX here and I hit my F1 key. And right now I'm signed in. But if I sign myself out, I still have the ability to go in there and see information. So you do not need a web key to be able to go in there and get that information. So it gives you a little bit more, but not much. If you have a web key, you can go in there and look at some stuff on the Siemens site where you would not be able to if you did not have the web key. However, for the most part, for the self-help, you can quickly get to it. Still, just like I said, I'm signed out right now, and if I hit F1, it's still going to bring me in. If I say log in, I have the ability to log in, and do my usual login that I would do.
Brian, here's another question that came in. If I turn on the old Sketcher using the utilities early access, does it stay on for the session or does it act like a user preference?
So if I turn it on, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Utilities, early access, sketch. Right now, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to turn it off for a second. And I'm going to say, okay. Now I'm going to get out of NX. And I'm going to come back in. Once this shuts down here, come back over here and turn on 2406. If you can't tell, I got a bunch of different versions on my machine. Oftentimes when a new version comes out, I have to start going through and delete stuff because, it takes up a pretty good amount of space. So now we're in here. Let's go ahead and start a new part. And if we go over to my preferences, this should, utilities, early access, it should keep what I had from my last session. So it's more like a user preference. You can go in there and turn it off and on, and it will stay with your launch. So if I closed out again and I said turn on, it would leave it on the next time I opened up. Make sense?
And here's another question. Can rapid dimension still be used?
Yes, it can be turned on. So if I come back in my NX here and I come in my sketch, right now it is not on. However, if I come over here, the solve group is out of default turned off, by the way, now. Not the solve, I mean the option group. But I can turn that option group on by clicking here. And then if I look correct, I believe it's under here, dimension drop down. I can turn it on and I get my rapid dimension to come back up. Now, I recommend use that sparingly. There may be a time where you want to, maybe let's just say, for example, I draw a rectangle Actually, I'm just going to draw it out here in no man's land. And you'll notice I use this from center. This is a new enhancement also, so you get a center line now. So maybe you want to have, an angle dimension though. And if I came in here and I just select this, you can get it quickly just by doing that. However, if you're accustomed to this, you still have the ability to come in here and say, give me an angle dimension, and it will give you that angle dimension. And you notice, like I said, you can come in there and that center line will move with it. So it allows you to come in there and dimension that center line if you choose to. One other thing I wanted to show was the slot. So we do have the slot now. The slot works pretty nice. All you do is you draw the center line, and then you can come in there and do that right there, and you get your slot. Now, if I lock these dimensions, I can come in there and it locks those dimensions, and you can see I can actually lock on to stuff and create myself a sketch. If you come in here and put an angle in it, it will lock it in that angle. So I can create as many sketches as I want in that angle. And notice another nice little thing here is if I hold on to these, I'm not holding nothing here. All I'm doing is coming in, I get a lock on it, and now they're in the same. It locks onto these other particular parts and allows me to line them up easier. So if I wanted to lock this onto this, I could. If I wanted to lock it on that. And if you don't want those to come up, just hit your control key or alt key, leave your alt key in, and you won't get it where it locks onto anything. So if you don't want it being locked on, just simply take your alt key, hold it in, and then you can place your parts. Daryl, did you have a question there? I saw your hand was up earlier.
Yeah. So once you renew a sketch, is there no going back?
Correct.
Okay.
It's still that manner. If you renew the sketch, you're going to be in a new sketcher.
Okay. Another question I
So-
had is the found relations. That's nice feature that you had there with whatever that thing's called. But is there any way to actually show them all without actually selecting a geometry to get them to show up?
Unfortunately, at this time, I believe the answer is no on that.
Okay.
I would have to dump. Like I said, I've only been out for a week, this version, so I'd have to play more on that. But if you want to
Yeah.
shoot me some emails on that, I could check that also.
Yeah, that'd be a nice enhancement because, so often, I struggle with a sketch. It's like, okay, what's it assuming? It's assuming, a parallelism or something here, and it doesn't, it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes to figure out what's going on.
That's why, I mean, the big thing is that's why we added that the sketch navigator too,
Yeah. Yeah, that helps. That'll be helpful.
I saw something weird here. My sketch navigator's off.
Yeah,
I am not
2406.
Yeah, I am in 2406. Pretty sure. Oh no, 2312.
There you go.
There you go. That's why it's not there. So I was like, oh dang. That's what happens when you open up multiple windows, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. 2406. If I create a sketch now, it should be there. And it is. So yeah, unfortunately, right now, as far as I know, there's no real way to show the found relationships. There is, you can show the persistent, but as far as the found relationships, I always come over here and I'll stretch this out a little bit. See how it says found right now. So if I wanted to know if these two curves were parallel, for example, I just click both of them. Or, well, it's not working how I thought it did there. It's acting a little weird right now. think I might have to come back out and let's add a dimension first and see. Okay, that's what it was. I didn't have a dimension in there. As soon as I have a dimension in there, it will come in, give me some found relationships there. So if I select this line and this line, do that again, we'll get two vertical relationships that are driving that. But if we wanted to make sure they were all as parallel, all we'd have to do, turn on our persistent, you go and find this is parallel right here. You turn this and this line on, say okay. And now if I turn on my display persistent, they will show up. So if you're used to seeing relationships and you like working in that manner, you can simply still use it in that manner by creating persistent relationships. It's not recommended. I mean, it's not always needed, but that's a preference of yours that you can go and do. And so we have one more. Nathan, you have a question, buddy.
Yeah. Can you go through and kind of explain what the purpose of that relax? I think, can you go back to NX once?
Yes, yeah. We are at 12 o'clock, 12:04, so we are a little bit over, but I can answer this real quick for you. Okay, so let me make sure I'm in 2406. I'm sorry. All right, so you're wanting to go in here and you want to look at relaxed relationships, right?
Yeah, because I guess one thing that we've always, and what made us nervous was we would put constraints on and then we would put them relationships on, and then it's like we could still move stuff around. Is that, I'm assuming it has something to do with that relaxed relationships, but I guess I don't fully understand what that is and what that's for.
Okay, so let's say, for example, let me try something. So we have this on. Now I can come in there and still move stuff, right?
Yep.
Let me turn on my relaxed relationship. If I wanted to relax this one, for example, come in and I relax it. I can come in there and start doing this to it now. So that's where
Okay.
the relaxed relationship comes into play. If you relax dimensions, notice it will go in, highlight that as magenta and allow me to do that. So if I don't want that to be on, I can notice now when I drag, it just drags in that manner. Now, the other thing you need to watch with the new sketcher. Let me go back a few here. Is it does allow you to go in and actually do a double dimension. So the reason that is unless it's the persistent relationship, I'll go ahead and turn off my persistent here. These particular dimensions will override found relationships. So your dimension is always king now. So in this case, I got a 6-inch over here and 6-inch over here. If I come and take this, as soon as I double click this, you'll see you get a found relationship that's already relaxed, because what it's going to allow me to do is this here. Make sense? Did that answer your question, Nathan?
Yeah, I think so. So mainly if you don't want to have that ability, you just keep those off and you don't have to worry about clicking and dragging and your sketch getting all messed up after you put your dimensions on.
Yeah, yes and no, because there are times where you can still, let me go back here. Let's see here. I'm going to turn off relaxed relationships. So you still have the ability to come in here and relax them on your own just by clicking on them. See how I did that? So now
Yep.
I can come in there and take this and move it how I want. Whereas relaxed relationships here, it's just going to relax them right away. I can just click on them like that and it relaxes them.
Okay.
Okay.
And then so you relaxed them there when you,
Well, they're not relaxed
you,
now because they're only going to be relaxed when I come in here and click it like this, and then I can come in there and do what I want.
okay.
So gotta be careful what you click here, you know, because if I take this here, I can go and do that with it. If I turn it off, it still works in that manner. So I'm gonna have to look and see why that is. Most of the time when I go to relax stuff, I just select it and then go straight to which one I want to relax. If it's
Makes
brown,
sense.
obviously it's not locked down, you know, so that's the other thing. You got to make sure it's locked down. And these curves here with the new sketch navigator, it'll let you know if that curve is still movable. So that's the big thing. You got to think of it like you do with your assemblies. You know, you want to fully constrain this stuff. You want to have it where these bubbles are black and filled in. That way, that sketch, unless somebody comes in there and changes a dimension or relaxes something, is not going to move. Does that make sense? So right
Yep.
now, for example, I'll go in and I'll make this one really quickly fully constrained. Well, it's not even fully constrained no more. They call it fully defined. So you see how quickly I did that, and now these are all black, and I can't move any of this stuff unless, see, it won't let me. It'll let me move it this way because I have a dimension on that. Clint, well, that's where it came into play. Okay, let's do this. Now it should not let me do it. See how now I had to do a break and shake to get that. So that's where that comes into play. So right now I don't have that on. It won't let me move this. So I can't move this sketch at all. I'd have to go in there and make dimensional changes or relax this. If I came relaxed again, now I can go in and move that.
Okay. Yeah, that was actually that's exactly what I was looking for. So when you put that initial, I
When I
guess we'll
can't,
call it a constraint.
yeah, it's collinear I put here.
Yep.
And
And if
now,
that
you
was
know,
turned off, you can't override it, I guess.
exactly. And then I have the collinear here that I could put in. Now, if I have relaxed relationships on, I can't, I mean, off, I can't move it. As soon as I put the relax on, it's going to let me go in there and relax that. Okay.
Okay.
All
Jumping
righty.
off from that question and what Nathan was asking, you were
Yeah.
just showing him that same uh, demonstration. I think one of the bigger concerns on our end is when you put that third dimension into the sketch and take it from a rectangle to a
Yeah. With an angled
polygon,
face on it. Yeah.
it seems like it will disassociate from the origin point as it does that move. And
Okay.
we've
So,
struggled mightily keeping
and what
it
version are you on?
2007, and maybe that's
Okay.
something that's
So,
changed.
yeah, let's take a quick look here. So you're on 2007. I believe you go ahead and put this in. There have been some, oh, where was it at? Improved relationship processing right here that was put in 2212. So that's why you seen mine did not break away when I did that. So I get what you're saying that you're talking about like the endpoints, right?
Correct. So if you would start that rectangle on the 00 origin,
Yep.
if you kept adding dimensions to it, it would resize itself and just completely disassociate from the 0.
Yep. So this is where we, you know, in 2212, we made improvements to that stuff. Okay. So that's I know it's not always ideal for everybody to update. I understand, you know, I was a design manager myself, and I know there's customized stuff in the background that goes on. And you also may have a, you know, sister company or mother company driving what you guys version you're on, or you may even have a customer, you know, that says, hey, this is what version we're on. We need to be on this. But you can see here the improvements, you know, this has had over the years. And that's why, you know, we continue to do these monthly updates to be able to get to that. Does anybody, do, do anybody else have any questions or anything else?
No, thanks, Brian.
Yeah. if you guys do come up with anything else, just go ahead and shoot me an email, okay? And for those who don't have my email, let me bring that up real quick. You can take a quick screenshot of that. There's my email, and additionally, this will be, posted later on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Brian, for an excellent session today, and many thanks to all of you for joining us. Now, I will send the recording of this Tech Talk to your email, and we encourage you to view and register for any upcoming Tech Talks. We have many scheduled through the end of July, so don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and stay up to date with all the excitement of Prolim. Thanks again, Brian. Great session.
All right. Thank you.